Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the Channel Falcon. I haven't even decided what we're going to call this series yet. And Michael Sennett here has graciously volunteered as tribute to be our first of many. And I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself here in a moment. But I wanted to just kind of lay the groundwork for what I hope to be a really valuable series to hopefully anybody who would come across this content. And really, this is designed for if you're a small to medium sized business or you work in a mid level enterprise and you're dealing with technology on a day to day basis. Maybe you see what's going on in the industry or in the marketplace, things related to cybersecurity or compliance, and maybe you've got questions or concerns or you're not sure. My intention is to bring subject matter experts just like Michael on a recurring basis here to discuss things of interest, things that are relevant to you guys. And so hopefully you find this valuable and impactful for you all. So if you haven't met me before, my name is Johnathan Schofield. I am with the ChannelFalcon team, and we work to connect service providers just like Michael to small to medium-sized businesses and enterprises that might have a need. So that's me, Michael. I'm going to hand it over to you. Why don't you share with the crew where you're from, who you are, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Michael Sennet. I'm with PC NetTechs. I live in Toledo. We have offices in Fostoria, Ohio, North Canton, service clients all over Ohio, and we have customers up to New York, Florida, Hawaii, and Kentucky. We have a widespread reach of getting out to customers. A lot of customers come back to us or find us for a new venture or something else that they're starting. I mean, it's not every day you have somebody based in Ohio working in Hawaii. So, find those niches. We're out there helping customers navigate IT. We want customers to get the value out of their IT. A lot of people look at it that they're spending time in their IT and they're not able to run their business. So we step in, help assist run the IT so they can get back to what they're doing, what they're good at, making their business grow. And then we're right there for every step of the way to help them grow. And by proxy, we grow. Our goal is to work with customers and help everybody grow, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for as business owners and involved with businesses, is to grow, continue on, do new things, and see what's out there.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I love what you said about growing by proxy. It sounds to me like you must have a really partnership driven relationship with your customer base. You talk about like customers starting new ventures and you're the guy they call. I love that. Can you share some examples of, you know, that kind of story that a customer's had with you where they're like starting here and then they've experienced growth and it was mutually beneficial for you both?
Sure. We've had customers, so we worked with a local nonprofit, and they were looking at things, and then they were given an opportunity of saying, hey, you can take over this other nonprofit and take over the responsibilities and here and there. And at the time there was another IT company that was in there, but they brought us in because they were familiar with us. They knew that we could do the work, and the other IT company was keeping the lights on and keeping the doors open. We went in and said, hey, this stuff that you have, let's look at doing this, this, and this to give you the functionality of what you're looking for today, but give you that capability to move to other things in the future. There was at one time, they were operating between 2 or 3 phone systems. And we deployed one singular phone system that allowed them to all interact with each other, all answer all the other calls if they need to, but also be their own entity, have their own phone number, follow their own options to get in, but they're all working inside of one phone system so that they could save money. I mean, trying to run multiple phone systems with multiple phone lines are always expensive. So simplify it, and saving them money is what really worked for that specific relationship and that growth.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a very common story where, the status quo or, the least amount of effort to keep the lights on is, in a lot of cases, the IT experience of a lot of enterprises and businesses. And then like you hear that story of a nonprofit that, wakes up one day and they find themselves trying to manage 3 different phone systems. And, to someone who's not familiar with kind of the accrual of technical debt that an organization goes through, you're like, how does that happen? How do you get to a place where you wake up one day, find 3 phone systems you're managing? But it's a lot more common than you think. I want to ask you this, Michael. So that conversation related to technical debt, how prevalent or problematic do you think that is in the marketplace, where you've got these businesses that they've got this pebble in their shoe, example being they're using 3 phone systems and they really need to consolidate into one, but they just live with that kind of pain. Talk to me a little bit about that. How big a problem is that, do you think?
It's bigger than anybody really realizes. We had a customer that had 14 VMware servers. The licensing alone was monstrous in cost. We reduced them from 14 down to 4 and still gave them the redundancy and resiliency that they needed. We have another customer who is treating things like, I need a server for this product and I need a server for that product and everything else. And they're in the same boat. They're right now running 10 different ESXi standalone servers. And it's like, oh, well, we need to do this. And I says, I can't. I have space here, but that's this resource. And I can't do that because of this. And or you've got the other customers that are still running Windows 7 and parallel port printers, dealing with trying to print from applications. And Microsoft had that lovely update. Hey, you can't print anymore. Yeah, we got to uninstall this update, and then we got to fix this, and then we got to fix that, and we got to go back several times. And it's like you're using parallel printers. Yeah. It's like, I remember parallel printers when I was in high school. And even before then, I remember dot matrix, and this company has dot matrix printers. And it's like, you need new technology to help you continue your growth. And there are customers out there that just put things in to let them run. And when it's broke, they try and fix it, and they're still dealing with the same problems.
Yeah. And I think the way that I think the journey that a lot of businesses find themselves on is, as they grow, as they scale, they experience operational pain, or there's different problems that crop up that need solving. And so, it's a very reactive approach to technology. A problem crops up and they're like, how do we fix this? And so that's fine to a degree. But when you're not proactive with your technology, what ends up happening is, 5, 10, 15 years of business go by, and you've created this patchwork quilt of solutions to problems. VMware servers would be one example. Like I'm sure at those times, as they chose to deploy that infrastructure, that there was a business case for each one, right? And it made sense in the moment. And it maybe wasn't well thought out. It maybe wasn't, strategic, but they were doing a thing for a reason. And like in the case of that nonprofit with 3 phone systems, I'm sure there was rationale behind why it got to that point. But by bringing somebody in who can like put the finger on the pulse and say, hey, let's have a sanity check here. We need to really understand where it is you guys are on this, IT journey. Where does you want to be? Are you okay with that pebble in your shoe? Because you've been walking with it for a long, long time. So what would your recommendation be, Michael, to somebody out there that maybe isn't aware of the technical debt that their organization has accrued? What's some low-hanging fruit that they can go and start today on their own? Obviously, bringing somebody like you and the PC NetTechs crew in is a no-brainer in my mind. But if they just wanted to go out on their own and start addressing some of these issues related to technical debt, what would be like the first 3 important things that they should try and tackle right out of the gate?
Use case for everything. The first one is it still being utilized? Is it being utilized for all of its features? Is there something that, if it's an old piece of hardware, if it dies, do you have an idea? There are so many places out there that we've gone in and we start finding out, it's like, oh yeah, this is running over there. Wow, but well, that's not being used. And then all of a sudden come to find out it's the DHCP server for the entire network and it died. And it's like, well, that was kind of important. Finding out what all is there. It's more of understanding what they have. Bringing in an outside consultant such as us is going to be the quickest way, but understanding what they have, sitting down and looking at their support bills or looking at renewal contracts or whatever else and understanding what they have. We had customers that we worked through and looked through bills, and it's like, why are you paying for an internet connection at a building that you haven't been at in 2 years?
Yeah.
Why are you having phone lines and they're not even connected up anything?
Right.
Why, looking at everything, and realistically, you have to find a partner that's willing to sit there and understand the stuff and deal with the stuff with you and take you on and kind of be that partner to say, let's go in and let's figure it out and go from there. Understanding where the money goes, obviously a big thing, and anybody dealing with accountants should be able to easily say, hey, where's all my money going? Well, it's going, you're paying Spectrum, Comcast, Verizon, whatever that you're paying them this amount of money. It's like, there's ways to reduce phone cost. You're paying for these renewals. Is that equipment even in use anymore?
Right.
And then going through and understanding, what the process is and how data flows through a network. We walked into a shop that is still running early version of Windows. Don't quote me, 95, 98.
Oh my.
Is still on the network for moving data from point A to point B. And it's like, if that machine dies, what are you going to do? And it's critical to their business.
Right.
So
and
understanding
not only that, but like when you're using, antiquated operating systems like that and they're attached to the network, what is their risk appetite? Because there's very likely vulnerabilities that they are not even realizing when they put their head down on the pillow at night, that there's opportunities for bad actors to exploit that when they're attached to the network. Let me ask you a question. That scenario you described, I'm going to venture a guess. Was that like a manufacturing company or distribution or something like that? Yeah. Okay. So that was my spidey sense talking like that. So like there's a lot of like custom built or legacy applications that were built for old operating systems. And then you get the IT manager for like a manufacturing plant or a warehouse. And they're like, well, if we upgrade from 95, then we got to upgrade the software, and nobody even supports that thing anymore. So they just live with it, but they'll keep it attached to the network. And what kind of vulnerabilities are they like just living with? And maybe there's a case to live with those vulnerabilities, right? But have they even had that exercise where they think through like what's the risk cost associated with what I'm doing right now? I appreciate some of the other things that I'm hearing you say, like someone that can be that partner who's going to really help understand a holistic approach to, is there a business case for everything that you're leveraging and certainly everything that you're spending dollars on, and like, what's the plan for it? A lot of IT managers, do you work with on-site IT a lot as well?
Yes. So we can replace IT, or we can be a value-added reseller. We operate both ways. It really comes down to what customers' needs are, and we're flexible to those needs.
No doubt. And I think this is probably a tale as old as time where, early stage in a venture, the CFO often gets handed the hot potato of technology, or it might be some operations fellow or an administrative assistant or something like that. And that works for a while, early stage when there's a small business and you guys are figuring some stuff out. But as that technical debt starts to accrue and you continue to have that reactive approach to technology, then they end up hiring an IT manager or a couple of techs to keep all of that afloat. And then in some cases, you've got an IT manager who's just one guy, and it's not his fault. He's servicing an organization of sometimes 50, 100, multiples of hundreds by himself, or the ragtag crew of really smart guys, but they're strapped for resources. Their budget is never what it really probably could or should be. And they are so busy putting out fires that having that, proactive approach to addressing technical debt and being strategic about the future, man, those on-site IT guys get so much benefit with someone like you and your crew coming alongside. It's like, hey guys, you're in the trenches, hardcore, and we respect what you're doing. Let us come along as like a strategic partner to not only support you and help offload some of that stuff so you can focus on what you're best at, but also help guide you guys as you go into scale and grow and advance through what your technology and security needs even are. Back to that idea you said earlier, growth by proxy, like it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. When you can come help these guys save costs, save money, increase productivity, increase security, protect against opportunity costs associated with risk, be ready for what's coming down the pipeline for them. That's what's a lot of folks that are just in the day-to-day with that pebble in their shoe, existing and dealing with the pain. They don't realize like that breath of oxygen that can flow through the business by leveraging a strategic partner with you. This has been really, really awesome, Michael. I do want to touch on a few other things. A lot of folks watching this video probably maybe have never met you or are not familiar with you guys. I'd like for you to share a little bit about your background, before PC NetTechs, how did you kind of start your journey in the technology space? And what are some highlights that brought you from then to now?
Well, I would have to say it would be Dad bringing home a Packard Bell eons ago. And then he worked for General Motors. So somebody came over to help him out. And he, started talking to me about computers and how to load up games. And he brought a couple games with him. And remember, one of them was Jurassic Park and things like that. And tinkering around with that old Packard Bell for years. And, then the whole slogan of the 90s of, dude, you're getting a Dell. And Dad brought home a Dell. And to this day, I still have that Dell computer. And last time I fired it up, it actually still functioned.
Wow.
And then building my computers and, getting involved into it. I started off doing Cisco and I didn't, I got into it and I liked networking and did Cisco prep for network associate, network professional, but I never really could grasp it was there and I liked it, but it wasn't something I loved. So I continued on and evolved to a few jobs. I've changed out more jobs. PC NetTechs is actually now my longest running job that I've had. But I was at a place and we were deploying VMware servers and we were replacing 2 physical boxes with this one massive box. And it was going from $10,000 for 2 to $10,000 for 1. And by the time I left, they were running 5 virtual machines on this one box where they were running 2 physical servers before. And at that moment, I absolutely fell head over heels in love with VMware. I enjoyed what it does, all the capabilities, all the different things that you can do with it. And it's just what I enjoy doing day in and day out. And I'm sitting there and there's a Dell team there because they're talking about buying 120 servers and everything else like that. So we've got Dell sales reps sitting in the room with us and we're talking about things. And I catch them outside and say, okay, that's great at what you're talking about for the business. I want one. What can we do? And, this was back in, this was before I got married. So it had to have been, this was after I got married because I had my truck at the time. So 2008, 2009, I bought my first server. And I've ran a server at home for just dabbling with. And it's grown, was file servers, backup servers. Now I run Active Directory to restrict what my kids can get in and do, restrict what my wife can maybe do. We'll see. Do all that. And, having 2 kids and the protections, being able to protect them so that they're not exposed to things. And I can do it this way and protect their devices this way. It's one of those things that kind of snowballed into what I enjoy. At the end of the day, everybody wants to feel safe and use technology to get things. It is, whether it's kids or whether it's your business, you're attached to it and you want to be able to be safe and operate with it. So as things progressed, I worked for an MSP. Things didn't work out. And then I started up with a nonprofit doing their tech stuff part-time because they couldn't afford. And they were like, hey, you were doing this stuff on the side. Why don't you go back to doing it? And it's like, okay. So I did it, and PC NetTech's officially formed in 2018, and just kind of continued on. And we're here today, and I've acquired a couple companies and just continue messing around and enjoying technology.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I think that's a story, that arc, that's very similar to a lot of folks. I work heavily on the sales side of technology, right? I'm not necessarily technical myself, but I think you'll appreciate the analogy. Well, not really an analogy, just what I'm about to say. I don't think there's a lot of folks that grow up as young people thinking, I want to be a salesperson one day, or like, I want to run an IT company one day. But then there's a few of us that have like these experiences along the way that we're like, this is something I not only am, first, I think you figure out that you're good at it. You're like, I can make a little bit of money doing this, or there's that planted seed, like your dad bringing home a laptop, or excuse me, not a laptop, probably. Like
desktop, the first one.
Oh yeah, for sure. A machine. And you get to tinker with it and play with it. You get those experiences. And then one day you wake up and you're like, not only am I good at this, but I like really enjoy it. And it becomes this thing that you get fascinated with and obsessive with. And like, so obviously technology, really large umbrella. You've identified, you love VMware, you love playing around with servers and infrastructure. And even though PC NetTech, I'm sure, solves for a host of solutions and issues and problems, like that's where you've identified, like, this makes me happy. I like to do it.
Yep.
It's fun. I appreciate that. Let me ask you another question. So obviously you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. You've got something special on your hands with PC NetTech. I want to kind of peer inside the why, like why you do what you do. Obviously you enjoy what you do, but like, I want to get a little existential with you, if you don't mind. What are the things that, like, as far as like, why do what you're doing now versus, I'm sure you could get a job with, another cloud provider or anyone that has infrastructure. You could get that cushy W-2 and, but why do what you're doing, and how does it serve the bigger picture of like what's important to Michael?
So this goes into kids and dates, and I base it around a lot of that. So in 2013, my son was 2, and we took a family vacation. And it was the first family vacation with the 2 of us. My wife, myself, and our son. My wife was pregnant with our daughter. And we enjoyed it. We went to San Diego for, I think, a week, 2 weeks, stayed with my parents, did SeaWorld, did Disney out in California, enjoyed it.
Right.
And I was working for, at the time, I was working for, who was I working for? Cable provider at the time.
Got it.
And kind of worked with them, and, they allowed me to take the time. And then, had my daughter and everything else like that. And I continued working for them. And then I changed jobs and I continued on with things. And I went from the cable company to a company I was at for a little over 90 days. And then I was an IT director, had a nice compensation package. Then I went to had an issue there. When you're called a dumbass, you kind of lose respect for people that you have to report to.
I can appreciate that.
So I started looking and had a job and lost the job. I actually had to sue the company to find out why they rescinded the job offer. That was fun. And then I did some temporary work during the summer, just trying to get something, and started with an MSP. Then I got fired by that MSP for things that I didn't do, but won my unemployment case. So we had that. And then I started doing, working for a nonprofit and doing PC NetTech. And here we are, 2020, early 2021, the pandemic's in, family hasn't had a vacation in 8 years. So wife and I were talking, it's like, hey, why don't we, things are opening back up. Disney's on. Why don't we go to Disney? Took 2 weeks off and went to Florida, did 9 days of Disney, 4 days of Universal. And in the previous 8 years, the most we had ever done was go back and spend time with family in New York. Yeah. So I do what I do now and have PC NetTechs because it allowed me to really actually start taking vacations with my family. Yeah. In 2021, we did Florida. 2022, we did Portugal. This year, we did Niagara Falls for Labor Day. And my wife and I are actually going to be going to Barcelona and Venice for about a week and a half in November without the kids. So I do PC NetTechs and I enjoy what I do because it has given me the ability to have a life outside of work, spend it with the family, spend it with the kids, and get those moments and times that as the kids grow up, I'll never get back.
I love that so much. I can't speak for anybody watching this video and what they may think or infer based on, what your why is. I've got 2 kids myself. They're everything to me. And so I feel similarly that everything I do in the professional world serves as a means to living my best life with and for the people that I love. So it resonates really strongly with me. And then to speak to some of your experiences, in, more or less corporate America in the past, I love that you woke up one day and you kind of had this moment where you realized that you don't have to deal with other people's perception of your value. You realize that you've got marketable skill sets, you've got connections, and as just being who you are and knowing what you know and doing what you can do, you knew that you could go out and do the thing that would enable you to live your best life, which any prospective client of yours should look at as a tremendous asset in why the business even exists. Meaning that for you to be able to go for 2 weeks and step away from the business, that means you have to have built such meaningful relationships with your clients and built such a good process and infrastructure around them that, it's running and working and valuable and meaningful for them. It's that partnership is working, because it's way different than the guy that's just in it for a buck, because that guy's, the customer experience doesn't matter the same way to some way. That this is a means to you living your fullest life. So I love those answers, Michael. I feel like we've kind of gone through pretty much most of the main things that I wanted to touch on. I mean, I guess as we start to wrap up here, I'd love for you to share a couple of thoughts, with anybody watching this video. So hopefully the people watching this video, if you're an influencer or a decision maker related to IT or cybersecurity, potentially compliance or whatever industry you're in, Michael, what would your words of encouragement be to these folks or recommendations, as we kind of wrap up today, assuming that they kind of meet that, what we articulated earlier about those companies that are growing and experiencing the accrual of technical debt and all of that, what would your, as a subject matter expert, your final thoughts or suggestions be to these folks watching?
What you want to do is you want to find somebody who cares. You want to find somebody who's going to be in it with the long haul. You want to find somebody that, that you can call, that you can email, and that you'll get a response. And you want somebody who's there, not just to, keep the lights on. You want to be able to see, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can predict the future. But if it's kind of like I have a customer right now. It's like, hey, it's 15 grand to do what you want. But hey, we can take that $15,000 and we've already had a conversation with this other group and we can get $10,000 from them. So now we got 25 grand. Instead of spending it and having this, we can spend it and start getting this. And start looking at the bigger picture for everybody instead of it just being here, there, or this or that. But start looking at what everybody needs and start addressing what is needed everywhere, so that those fears and everything else that everybody has, when you all of a sudden notice, oh my God, everything boils around this one machine and I have to have it, can go to be, yeah, it boils around that machine, but I've got things in place so you go and sleep at night. You know, you were mentioning earlier about being able to sleep. Just the same as, you know, pointing out to customers and then them losing sleep and everything, losing sleep. I do the same thing. You know, I walk into a customer site and I say, you're doing what with what and how, what, wait, what? And it's like, give me a moment to process. And then it's a follow-up conversation. It's like, dude, I haven't been able to sleep. We need to fix this. What's it going to take? What can I do so that I can sleep at night, knowing that you guys are going to be able to continue with what you're doing? And then let's start looking at the other things. I know you called me about this, but we really need to address this, because this is so large and so massive that if something happens to this, you have a serious problem. And if we don't get through something now and that happens, I don't know that I'm going to be able to help you with anything.
Right.
You know, I want to be there. I want to be able to have that good sleep at night. You know, I love being able to go to bed at night and be able to wake up, and I'm not having to worry about a phone call at 2 a.m. in the morning or 10 p.m. I can go, you know, put my kids to bed, go to bed myself, wake up in the morning and start dealing with issues if there are any. I mean, you know, there's times where the phone doesn't ring for a couple hours, and that's great. You know, that means things are running. You know, when you talk to a customer, it's the worst time because there's usually a problem. It's usually this, usually that. It's the worst time for that customer at that point in time.
Yeah.
I like to make it that I limit those conversations as much as possible, and to turn it into, hey, we may not talk. I'm here for you. But if we don't talk, that means things are working, and that means you're able to do your stuff. And it really means I'm doing my job that you contracted us.
Your comments about, you know, like, because I was referring earlier to like the business owner or business leader not being able to sleep at night. And you kind of turned it around and adopted that anxiety for yourself, meaning like if my customers have risk or they've got dealing with operational pain like that, you're not okay with that. And that affects you. And if that doesn't speak to your partnership mindset with your clients, I don't know what does, man. To internalize that anxiety that they should be feeling and you feel it for them, that sense of urgency to solve for pain, that is a tremendous testament to the way you guys do business. Michael, I am so pleased that you're able to join us today. And hey, if you're watching this video on LinkedIn, YouTube, on the website, you know, be sure to drop a like or a comment, share this with your friends. And if you would love an introduction to Michael Sennett or the PC NetTech's team, go to ChannelFalcon.com and, you know, fill out a form, and I'll be happy to facilitate that introduction. Of course, you can find his own website or, you know, message me directly. We're pretty easy to get a hold of. So thank you, everybody. Michael, so great to have you here, and we'll catch you all next time.